Hello, welcome back. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you hanging out with us for the afternoon. That's for sure. Joining me now by phone, Admiral Joe Sestak. Admiral, welcome back to Union Edge.
Great to be with you, Charles. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. We appreciate you hanging out with us for the afternoon. That's for sure.
That's great.
A number of things going on here in Pennsylvania. You finished up your 422-mile walk across the state from New Jersey to Ohio. We even got a chance to get you in here to the studio to talk to us for a little bit. But,
Yep.
sir, in this day and age, as we're gearing up for elections, what should Pennsylvanians be looking at?
I think Pennsylvanians have to look at who they want to trust, because the biggest deficit in America is the trust deficit. I think politicians have let them down by saying something in Pennsylvania and then doing something exactly opposite in Washington, D.C. And I think they have to make their assessment. Is this a man or woman who would actually stand by me when the bullets start flying, that I'm willing to take the risk of my job to do what I said I would do? And that, to me, is the major issue we have here in America today, the lack of trust, rightly, in our politicians.
Admiral, one of the things that really just frustrates the heck out of me, I'm a union member, and I believe that unions have a very appropriate place here in the United States. And while I understand they're not for everybody, everybody is welcome. We have Republican members, we have Democratic members, and we have independent members. And, we cover the entire spectrum of political beliefs, religious beliefs, ethnicity, so on and so forth. But we get politicians that are out there and they get elected, and the first thing they do is they say, well, I'm going to go after the unions. And they do it not because they have a belief that that's what they should be doing. They're doing it for the checks for those people that can write them a campaign contribution for $1, $10, or $100 million. Or in some cases here in the United States, the Koch brothers are talking about writing a check for just about $1 billion. Why is it that these people forget that they're supposed to represent all of their constituents and not just the ones that are writing them a check?
Money is one of the things that have most prostituted, polluted politics. People do things consciously or unconsciously because they're worried about the next contribution. Look, I'm for unions for one primary reason. They are the last organized force that stands up for the working family. I mean, in the AFL-CIO charter, it actually says, we are for American working families. Who is? Not those politicians that take contributions. Look, Senator Toomey actually, about 2 years ago, as a senator, put a cover letter signed by him on top of a pamphlet being mailed out that said this, by this other organization, that unions are the big Goliath. They are actually out to, and the word they used in it, kill us. I mean, they didn't mean physically, but what they meant is they would do us harm. I mean, how could Senator Toomey put a letter on that which said there's nothing more important I'm doing in Washington, D.C. than what this group is doing in Pennsylvania to get rid of the unions? That's wrong.
Isn't this the very thing that the Club for Growth and Grover Norquist were saying? They were going to shrink down the federal government. They were going to do away with federal unions, throw them in a bathtub and drown them. I mean, really?
My grandfather was an immigrant from Czechoslovakia. He was a union member at Lincoln Steel and worked hard every day, brought his family up the ladder of success to where my father went off and served America in World War II as a naval officer, rose to captain, and then his son went over and served. Look, unions bring us together, and unions have the right focus, when they're doing it right, upon working families. I have to agree with you. There are those like Club for Growth, Senator Toomey, who was president of Club for Growth, a lobbyist who took a job for lobbying after he left Congress, as 400 other congressmen and women have done after they left office. He has always sided with those that are not on the side of working families. For him, as he flies across the state in his jet, for him, he believes It is about somehow an ability for wealth to trickle down. I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I think Ron Reagan tried that and it didn't work real well then either. And I am very suspect of anybody who starts complaining about a giant transfer of wealth. That's been going on for the last 30 years here in the United States, and it's been going out of the pockets of working people into the pockets of the very wealthy. So I'm very suspect of that argument. Uh, Admiral, is there anything else that we should be aware of what's going on, and how do we combat it?
Well, I think the issue you just brought up is extraordinarily important. Look, is labor getting its fair share? By labor, I mean working families. Beginning about the 1980s, we had productivity continue, as it always did, to increase about 2.5% a year. I mean, labor would be working well. We'd have new technology coming, and productivity, getting more for your every dollar, up every year. But about that time, instead of the working family, labor getting its fair share, about 40, 50% of productivity gains and wage increases, it leveled off. So productivity was going elsewhere into those that invest in companies. And investment in companies is extraordinarily important. But why did almost all of that 2.5% increase in productivity since about the mid-'80s go all the way to those that invest, to the dividends and the capital gains? No. What's needed to be done is to ensure that labor gets its fair share of the sweat equity that they're putting into companies to make them more productive. That's the real issue here. And that is what it is about raising. Yes, we've got to have a minimum wage that's fair, but it's raising all wages and increasing the demand for labor by having small businesses and others spring to the fore and create more jobs is another corollary of this whole approach towards labor force getting their fair share of productivity.
There you go. Admiral, we got about a minute left. Any final words for us today?
Yes. I want people to understand in Pennsylvania how I want to serve them. That's why I walked across the state, 422 miles from the border of New Jersey to the border in Ohio. But I also wanted them to know what I wanted to do that they could hold me accountable for. And that's why I published the book here this past month, Walking in Your Shoes, to Restore the American Dream. In it are what I believe are the policies that we need to restore the dream so it's within the grasp of all Pennsylvanians, once again, and all Americans, to where your children have the opportunity to be better, do better even than you did. And that this book is not an autobiography. It's politically tough and risky, some might say, because there are those who won't agree. But I want people to understand specifically what I believe the policies are that must be pursued to make us, again, to have a dream that's within the grasp of everyone.
Admiral, I want to thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Just out of curiosity, where are you today and who are you talking to?
Headed up to Luzerne. We'll be doing an event in Delaware County and then Luzerne, and following through on Luzerne tomorrow. So we're focusing on in the Northeast. It is wonderful. This book, the walk across the state was great, and now starting in Erie, going to places like Lehigh Valley, and now Luzerne, and then Lackawanna has been tremendous. And once again, walking in the people's shoes of Pennsylvania, listening to them, their challenges and their hopes. I really enjoy this.
Absolutely. And Admiral, thank you very much for all that you're doing for the state of Pennsylvania. We appreciate your time.
My hat's off to you. Thank you very much. Have a great day, Charles.
You too. Admiral Joe Sestak. In the meantime, I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio.